The ayes have it.
Order number 9, motion. Debate on President's address, day 2.
Who was on the floor? Oh, no, you see.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to support the address by His Excellency the President, which was in fulfillment of a constitutional duty under Article 132, 1B of the Constitution that requires and obligates the head of state once every year to address a special sitting of Parliament. And the President is obligated to place before the two speakers of the House specific documents that deals with the national security, a document that deals with the realization of national values as referred to in Article 10 and how his government is complying with, and finally to tell the country and the nation and the House the progress made in fulfilling Kenya's international obligation. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about many things, from COVID to his economic blueprint, also in achieving the national transformative agenda and economic development. The President talked about his vision in terms of the Big Four agenda and the prevailing state of the national security. The Speaker, on the onset, let me talk about COVID-19 and its impact on our socio-economic and political life. Speaker, it was very sad for members of a committee to cry on national television. It's very, very sad. And I was scared the Honorable Kamket was about to cry, just because his statement was not adequately answered. Speaker, members of Parliament have constitutional powers under Article 93, 94, 95, and 96. They have powers under Article 121 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the House is the one that deals with the budget-making process and oversight. Mr. Speaker, it's very sad that the Committee of Parliament, the Committee of Health, instead of working closely with the National Treasury, inviting the Minister for Health, compel him, and if he doesn't listen to the House, there are powers to deal with him, work with the Budget Committee and the leadership of the House, and provide resources to pay our frontline health workers. Speaker, we cannot expose our frontline health workers to what we are seeing. And of course, of all people, a seasoned doctor, a former PS, a former director of medical services, crying on national television. The Speaker, that was an indictment of the whole House. And I want to categorically say, I am not part of those who are going to cry. And if there are people who want to cry, please you cry in your own individual capacity. Go to television, cry there. Don't cry in the committee, because the committee is an extension of the House. Mr. Speaker, our doctors are dying. Kenyans are dying. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. You know, I said a long time ago there should be change of guard. Our doctors are dying. Our Kenyan citizens are dying. And it was very sad, even the other day I was out in the House for a member of parliament to ask for a chopper. It's very ugly. We don't need a chopper. We want to be treated the way other citizens are treated. We want to go through what our voters are going through. Speaker, members of parliament are not special class. But this house must rise to the occasion. And we must leave anything else we are doing. And as a country, our resources, our energy, we must focus on the war against the COVID-19. So, Speaker, if we don't do that, Madam Speaker, if we don't do that, give me another. Yes, Madam Speaker, with your permission.
Yes,
if you allow
yes,
me 2
Honorable
minutes.
Duale. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Madam Speaker, we must rise to the occasion. And I'm sure those of us who are sitting here, our people are dying. The numbers you see announced by the Minister of Health, those numbers are less than 0.01%. Kenyans are dying in their villages. And for me as a Muslim, we bury within the first 6, 7, 8 hours a person passes on. The infection rate has gone up. Speaker, it's very sad today that as a country, we even don't have an insurance cover for our civil servants. NHIF came up and said they can't cover COVID patients. Speaker, more so, we're not addressing the situation of the healthcare system in the counties. Either the National Treasury is not giving them money, or they are eating the money meant for COVID. If you go to any of the counties, level 5 hospital or Rivaro hospital, Madam Speaker, you will find there are no ICU beds, there are no PPEs, there are no masks. I was in my constituency. People who can't even raise 500 shilling for their daily bread are being told to buy a mask for 1,000, for 2,000, for 500. Speaker, the President must declare COVID-19 as a national disaster. And above all, we, the leadership, must lead by example. We must tell our people, number one, we must protect the vulnerable section of our society, the elderly, the people with the conditions, those who their immune system is not very strong. Speaker, a spade must be called a spade, not a big spoon. The Health Committee, the Finance Committee of this House, and the Budget Committee must ask the Minister for National Treasury to bring a supplementary estimate that will redirect the resources we have towards fighting this epidemic called COVID-19. Finally, Madam Speaker, if we want to build a cohesive nation, a united nation, the Malakote people who are the minority in Tharaka and in Garissa, their voices must be heard. You cannot build one Kenya when you leave the pastoralist, when you leave the church, when you leave the women. And I want to speak to the women of Kenya. You better remain in this house where you'll become ministers and assistant ministers. Please don't go to the Senate. The Senate, in its current formation, is a house of the old. In its proposed formation, the Senate will be like the county assemblies. How can you leave an assembly where you have a chance of becoming a deputy prime minister or a prime minister, and you go to a house where you won't get even a kindergarten position? I support Madam Speaker.
I'm just trying to know who is where. No, honorable members, that's not